After the surprising success of the 2004 Christmas special, here we are at the second episode of Eddsworld, The Dudette Next Door. This was definitely not what people would expect to follow after the Christmas episode, and it tries a few new things, but is still kind of messy in places. So what's the story? A girl named Kim moves in next door to Ed and Tord, and the whole episode is just them fighting over her. That's about it. It's a classic comedic setup, two guys fighting for a girl's heart and blowing it out of proportion. That's primarily where the humor comes from, and it works. Ed brings her chocolates only to see Tord bring her an even bigger box of chocolates. Ed pushes Tord into the pool to screw up his chance at impressing her, but then it turns out to actually work. Somehow, she gives Tord a kiss and that causes Ed to start fighting him. And all this leads up to the kind of ending you'd expect from this story, but with a really unique twist. I won't ruin it for those who haven't seen it, but needless to say, it's actually very refreshing. But even though there are moments that tie in with the story and are also really funny, there are also moments that don't really add anything to the story, such as Ed and Tord's first fight. First off, Tord shows up dressed as Rambo. If he's trying to impress Kim with that, it would probably scare her more than impress her. Second, from a storytelling perspective, it's better to save the fight for the end and use the humor that comes from their rivalry to build up to it. And they do have one at the end, but it just makes this first fight seem kind of unnecessary. Though to be fair, it does give us this. Honestly, I think the appeal of this episode really does come from how much Ed and Tord are willing to kill each other just to get Kim to like them. If you like those kind of setups, you'll enjoy it. If not, then it's probably only worth watching for the animation. It's not that much better from the last one, but it's plain to see that Ed put just a little more effort into it. Kim's design, however, is kind of jarring. Not because she's attractive, but she looks too well drawn. You have Ed and Tord in that same sloppy Eddsworld style, and then you have this other character drawn in more of an anime-ish look. Then again, she doesn't appear in the episode that much, so it's not too distracting. The sound mixing, on the other hand, is very distracting. There are times when one piece of music plays over another piece of music, times when music cuts out later than it should, times when music plays for less than 2 seconds, and sometimes the music and sound effects are just a little too loud. I know this episode was made when Ed was very young, and I know that he improves, but somehow the audio mixing is worse than the last episode. Not terrible, but I can't help but let it bother me a little. Still, it doesn't turn me off from this episode completely. Ed certainly stepped his game up a bit from the last video, and it seems to me like this is the episode that changed things up for him. It got just a little more attention than the Christmas video.
It was a hit just because of that crappy lesbian plug, but you know.
And for the most part, it's very enjoyable. If anything, my issues with it are more nuances than legitimate problems. Dudette Next Door is a fun little romp with a great setup and some very funny moments. If you don't mind a little mindless violence for the most needless of reasons, check it out and enjoy the ride.